Chapter 8: SDF and the Man Who Walked the Stars. As Union Hall grew and nodes multiplied, the first serious attacks began. They were not coordinated at the council level. No decree was issued. No official channel called for sabotage. But fear did its work. On one industrial world, a group of extremists slipped into a node construction yard under cover of night, carrying shaped charges and wedge disruptors. They had watched the feeds. They believed the Union field was a human trap, a way to control thought, a subtle attempt to erase their species' identity. They made it exactly 3 steps past the perimeter. The air in front of them shimmered. Figures appeared. They were human-sized, human-shaped, cloaked in visual distortion that made it impossible to fix on their faces. Time seemed to stretch, a long, thin moment in which no one spoke and everyone understood exactly how outmatched they were. The extremists didn't even get to drop their weapons. The SDF moved once. When the workers arrived at dawn the next morning, all they found was a faint ozone scent and a few scuffed footprints leading away from the node. The charges were gone. So were the infiltrators. Rumors spread faster than any official notice. "They walked through walls," someone whispered. "They heard what we were planning and came before we did it. They don't kill, they just remove. Ghost humans, guardian humans." "Self-defense force," said one human in Union Hall when asked. "We built them because we knew there would be pushback. We don't expect your trust. We do expect the right to protect anyone who is trying to help." "Where do you take them?" another user asked, cautious. "To conversations," the human replied. No one quite knew what that meant, but the attacks slowed. Those who attempted them vanished before they could leave scars. The work continued. As node sites expanded, something else began happening. President Peter Hawthorne started leaving Earth. Not in ships, through doors. The technology that SDF used to appear and vanish, short-hop phase transit keyed to the Union field topology, was dangerous if misused and impossible to replicate outside human systems. Hawthorne used it like a man with a very good pair of walking shoes. He would announce his visit in Union Hall, openly. "I will be on Vadris tomorrow, at the central node site in the Crystalline Valley. I look forward to meeting anyone who wishes to be there." Strategists from 100 worlds read those announcements and went pale. "You cannot publicize movements like that," one council security analyst muttered to his console. "You are a head of state, not a festival busker." Hawthorne did it anyway, because there was only one enemy he feared, and the Purge did not care about ambushes. When he arrived on Vadris, it was like a festival. The valley's natural refracted light now mingled with glow from the completed node, casting shifting patterns over a crowd of thousands. Vadris citizens had gathered in formal dress, informal work clothes, traditional garments, and a few new outfits inspired by human media. One young artisan had painstakingly painted an approximation of the American flag across the front of his tunic. The stripes were wobbly, the star field had too many stars, and the colors were slightly off. It was perfect. When Hawthorne stepped through the phase aperture, a simple rectangle of light unfolding from nothing, he wore the same deep blue suit, the same red tie, the same small flag pin. The crowd roared. Some of them shouted in their own languages. Some shouted in carefully memorized human English. "Mr. President, Earthman, fellow citizen." A child near the front held up a hastily scribbled sign in a language Hawthorne didn't speak, but the translation floating in his vision read, "Thank you for the chocolate." He laughed. "Believe me," he said as he stepped down onto the crystalline platform, "that was selfish. Sharing chocolate makes friends faster than any speech." They roared again. He did not go to a podium. There was no podium. He walked into the crowd. Security details on 50 worlds winced as they watched the feed. Hawthorne shaking hands, touching shoulders, letting people close enough to do anything they liked. The SDF was there, of course, invisible at the edges, watching. But Hawthorne never once glanced toward them. His focus was entirely on the people in front of him. "What are you working on?" he asked one cluster of node technicians. They eagerly explained. He asked questions, not to quiz them, but to understand their version of the design. He made notes, asked if he could bring some of their modifications back to Union Hall. He noticed the artisan's hand-painted flag and stopped. "Did you make that yourself?" he asked. The artisan flushed a shimmering violet. "Yes, I saw images in your archives. I wanted to honor—" "You honored us the moment you picked up a tool," Hawthorne said. "That," he nodded to the flag, "is just beautiful lanyard." The word baffled most of them. The translator supplied. "A little extra gift." They liked that. At some point, a small Vadris child wriggled through the crowd to the front. His crystalline skin was still dull with youth, his eyes bright and nervous. He stared up at Hawthorne, clutching something, a cheap plastic toy node. "Mr. President?" he asked timidly. Hawthorne crouched a little, so they were at almost eye level. "Yes?" "Can I?" The boy swallowed. "Can I ride on your shoulders?" The request landed like a dropped stone in a still pond. The nearby onlookers went very quiet, not disapprovingly, just holding their breath. Hawthorne blinked. Then his face lit with a warmth that needed no translation. "You may," he said. He lifted the boy as if he had done it 1,000 times before, set him carefully on his shoulders, and stood. The boy shrieked with delighted fear and grabbed his hair for balance. The crowd erupted. Every recorder in the valley caught the moment. The president of a once-lost world, carrying an alien child on his shoulders like a father at an amusement park, weaving through a field of light and color and humming node resonance. In Union Hall, someone clipped the feed and reposted it. "This is what leadership looks like," they wrote. It spread. Later, Ina Tor finally got her moment. Hawthorne found her near the node, barking instructions at a pair of teenagers who were trying to improve one of her carefully tuned support struts. "You can improve it when you understand it," she said sharply. "Until then, you may stabilize it exactly as I showed." "Ina Tor?" Hawthorne asked. She turned, annoyed at the interruption. Her annoyance faltered when she recognized him. Her opalescent lines brightened, then dimmed, then brightened again in a flicker of conflicting emotions. "Yes," she said, a little stiff. "I am Ina Tor." Hawthorne held out his hand. "Peter Hawthorne," he said, "I've heard you like chocolate." Her gaze dropped to the large box he carried. It was similar in shape to the one that had appeared on her bench, but this one bore her name in careful script across the top. "I brought more," he said. "I thought perhaps the first batch wasn't enough." Her throat worked. You sent that?" she asked. "I approved it," he said. "The credit for finding the node resonance is entirely yours. The chocolate was the least we could do." She stared at the box, then at him. "We were just playing," she said quietly. "My grandchildren, my daughter. I just noticed a pattern." Most of humanity's breakthroughs started with someone just noticing something while they were busy loving someone else, he said. That caught her. She fought the sudden burn at the back of her eyes and lost. Liquid gathered there, refracting the valley light. "Thank you," she managed. "Thank you," he said. "Every life we save from the purge will owe that salvation, in part, to a grandmother who yelled at children until the universe revealed a secret." She laughed through the tears. "Do not put that on my gravestone," she said. "It's too long." "I make no promises," he said. Across dozens of worlds, visits like that played out in different ways. On one ocean-covered planet, he sat on a low platform while amphibious children painted his shoes and told him about the fish that nested in their reefs. On a desert moon, he helped an old mechanic lift a replacement beam into place while they talked about what it felt like to send your child off-world for the first time. On a station built into the side of an icy comet, he spent 20 minutes helping a pregnant technician balance her schedule so she could both rest and keep volunteering at the node. Always the same pattern: no podium, no distance, no bodyguards shoving people back. Just a man moving through the galaxy, letting people touch the future with their own hands. Back in the council capital, Saren Talek watched the feeds in silence. He watched the child on the shoulders, the grandmother with the chocolate, the alien in a crooked American flag shirt sobbing as Hawthorne signed it. With every new clip, a knot in his chest tightened. This is what they're doing, he thought, bypassing us, building loyalty directly. We are losing control. His colleagues ranted about that openly now. In private, they said darker things. Charismatic demagogue, one spat. He has the galaxy eating out of his hand. Too much trust placed in one species, another said. We need to rebalance the situation. Rebalance. The word bothered Talek more than any overt call for violence, because it was a word he had used himself, in other eras, to justify other preemptive strikes. In his study, Talek sat alone at his old wooden desk. A human could have sat in it comfortably, his species' hands close enough in shape and proportion that he could have turned pages in a human book without difficulty. The room was lined with shelves of physical memory, carved stones from the founding planets, woven banners from old victory days, metal slivers from scrapped warships that had once pointed their guns at one another and now sat as harmless decoration. He called up a private document on the desk's embedded display. Not an official plan, not yet, just notes. If one wanted to remove Hawthorne, one would need a moment when he was physically present, a location where phase transit was predictable, a team small enough to slip past SDF attention. He hated himself a little for how easily his mind supplied the logistics. He had spent a lifetime building structures where power felt safe. Hawthorne was a walking crack in that structure. He set his stylus down and pressed his fingertips together. This is for balance, he told himself. The room did not argue. He began outlining. Every time his thoughts strayed to the child on the human shoulders, he pushed the image aside. When he thought about Ina Tor's face when she opened the chocolate box, he tightened his jaw and added a contingency. He was not a monster, he told himself. He was a steward. Stewards did what was necessary. When he was halfway through a draft invitation and offered to host Hawthorne for a private discussion on behalf of concerned council leadership, his desk communicator chimed. He frowned. He had set it to private hours ago. He glanced at the identifier. Union Hall, sole priority channel. His pulse stuttered. He considered ignoring it. Stewards did not ignore information. He accepted. The display flickered and resolved into Peter Hawthorne's face. Not the polished broadcast version, a calmer, slightly weary, very present one. Counselor Saren Talek? Hawthorne asked. Talek's mouth had gone dry. Yes, he said carefully. This is President Peter Hawthorne, the man said, from Earth. I am aware of who you are, Talek said, more sharply than he intended. A hint of something like humor touched Hawthorne's eyes and vanished. I apologize for the intrusion, Hawthorne said. I know you did not request a call. Talek's gaze flicked involuntarily to the half-composed document hovering off to the side of his display. On the contrary, he said slowly, I was considering reaching out. Good, Hawthorne said. Would you like to talk? Talek's mind raced. If he could get Hawthorne to come here, physically, in person, under the guise of a meeting, he might be able to... Yes, Talek heard himself say. Perhaps we can arrange a time. Tomorrow. I will require security preparations. We can... He never finished the sentence. The air in the center of his study rippled. Light folded inward, then outward, silently. A human stepped through. Not a projection, not a hologram. The same man from the screen, now standing on Talek's carpet, suit still neatly pressed, flag pin catching the study's lamplight. He took in the room with a quick, appreciative glance. The maps, the artifacts, the history, and then looked straight at Talek. The communicator on the desk went dark. "I appreciate your concern for scheduling," Hawthorne said, stepping forward calmly. "But we're all a little short on time these days." He sat down in the chair across from Talek's desk, folding his hands loosely. "You wanted to talk," he said. "Here I am."